Thank you for joining us here tonight. I see some familiar faces in the crowd, so thank you for joining us again. I have already hit. Okay, I will figure this out. So this morning, I got up in a frenzy. I realized I didn't have any slides for the presentation, and these slides are more for me to stay on track. If you've ever been in any of my classes, we go in a million different directions, and I promise we're going to talk about, apparently, marketing tonight. We've got a laser pointer and everything. We have any cats? So marketing is what we're going to be going over, and specifically, we're going to kind of narrow that down a bit as we talk a little bit tonight. And I will give Tamilee of Tamilee Tips a chance to talk, but I thought that we would just kind of get things rolling, and then we didn't really coordinate anything. We don't have a song and dance plan for you, so might be a little back and forth. If you feel like jumping in at any time, please do. But I thought something important whenever talking about something as broad as marketing, it helps to have a little context of who and what experiences I've had that I'm coming from, and the framing that I have and my experiences that bring experience of the marketing when I'm talking to you about it. I started out. When I had hair, I was going to set the world on fire with my musical abilities and be an amazing rock star. I was born in Spokane, too small of a town for me. I moved. I was going to go to Los Angeles, and I was going to get a recording contract, and I was going to be a rock star. I ran out of money because of really bad planning in San Francisco. I ended up homeless in San Francisco and living in the back of a Safeway parking lot until I began knocking on people's doors asking if they needed roommates. Luckily, we found one. That was my first experience in not having a plan, but really having a desire to try and do something. And at the time, since I ended up in San Francisco, I went from job to job just to kind of figure out a way to pay the rent. Anybody who's lived in the Bay Area knows what rent is like down there. And so it was just survival. I also realized that I had not really thought out what I was going to do in order to connect with people in the music world. And the competition was fierce. I came from a small town in Spokane where I was on top of the world when it came to music. And all of a sudden, I was in a big, scary, real city with a lot of people trying to do the same thing. So luckily, I bounced around for a bit, and I lucked out with a job at a startup marketing company in Silicon Valley, which when I was in my teens, I thought was really boring. And people like Steve Jobs, who's he, walking down the hallway, one of our investors, Vinod Khosla, people like that. But the thing is the marketing director took an interest in me because he thought I was really uniquely weird, and he thought I might fit into the marketing department. So I got a crash course in marketing in high tech without even really just realizing what was happening. So the thing was, I thought Silicon Valley was interesting. I thought it was a great experience. I did it for about 2-3 years. It just wasn't me. I was an artist, and I needed to do something arty. And so I moved into the city, back from Mountain View to the city, and I went into the art business, which means that I was really broke for a while. And I worked in the art business, so all of a sudden I went from all of these things, so marketing to me was okay, we tell people about our product, we're helpful, that's cool, we do demonstrations. All of a sudden to hard sales, commission-only sales. If I didn't sell something that month, I was not paying rent, right? And that was a whole different experience. So we got into the hard sales part of things. interestingly enough, a lot of that, I did that for a couple of years, actually became quite proficient at it, ended up moving back to Washington and going back to school because when I moved back to Washington, there wasn't a whole lot of high tech going on in Spokane, and there wasn't a whole lot of art business going on in Spokane. So I did what I could, was go back to school, and I got interested in journalism because there was a lot of other weirdos that I really related to, and there was a professor who I thought was really cool in that department, so I was like, J-School, let's do this. And I loved it, and I thought it was super cool. And I remember what that professor told me, and he said, and this was about 2000, 2001, he said, be very careful about the profession you're choosing. It's going to change a lot in the next couple of years. You need to learn how to do, at the time it wasn't called Creative Suite, but it was like Photoshop and Dreamweaver, and you need to learn how to do HTML. You need to learn about video. You need to learn about this stuff. Here's the key to the building. You should spend your weekends coming in and learning this stuff on your own, because learning in the classroom isn't, you don't seem like the kind of guy who'll do that. And if you spend more time on the weekends just kind of picking this stuff up, I guarantee you this is where everything is going. And this is in 2000. And I was like, okay, all right. Turns out he was right. As many of you already know, the newspaper business had some problems in the mid-aughts. And the thing that, as my writer friends were getting laid off left and right, the reason that they kept me around is because, Paul, can you update the website? Yeah, I can do that. Hey, can you do the photo editing? Can you Photoshop? Can you do some video? Can you make these things happen? I realized that this is the way it was going, and then finally I went back and I got my master's, and I did what all my journalism friends called was turning to the dark side, which was going into marketing. And I really thought, I didn't know what I was going to do, because when I graduated in 2009, most of you remember there was a really, really not a good financial time going on right then. There wasn't anybody hiring. A lot of people were losing their homes, jobs. It was a really bad time. I could not figure out anything to do, so I started a business. I went and talked to a couple people. They funneled me into a lawyer. A lawyer told me to start an S Corp, and I started knocking on doors again like I did back when I was a musician just looking for an apartment. And the funny thing was, is my first client was the city of Spokane, and they offered me a huge contract. It was like about 6 months there where I was like, oh, whoa, what am I going to do? Like, no money coming in, no. And then City of Spokane called, asked me to come on and help them with a grant project. And that led to a couple other things. So I just kind of giving you an idea of, entrepreneurship. I'm reading a book, awesome book, Girl Boss by Sophia Amoruso. Excellent book. And she said there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's the entrepreneurs who are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what else to do. I got to figure out something, and they go and they do it, right? And then there's the other ones with kind of a plan. So I came in from, I thought that I kind of had a plan with getting my degree and everything, but I had no idea what was waiting for me when it came to entrepreneurship and learning about what marketing worked and what did not. And I found that a mix of reading what was going on, discerning the helpful from the hype is another huge thing, and also kind of going with a lot of experience, but not letting that experience cloud, taking that experience and going, this is going to be taking a cookie cutter approach to each difference. Because what has happened is, I've also told people this in my class, I've gone from working in government, education, nonprofit, to hospitality, to entertainment. I was shooting rock bands. Tamilee would come out and help me. She was awesome at that. Now I'm working in the medical industry. So it's been a wild ride. And I just thought that, so when you have questions, we can, between the two of us, can almost address almost any area that you might be interested in learning more about. So I always think context helps a little bit. So when we nail it down to entrepreneurial marketing, I love what Dr. May says in the description of, by the way, come join up for Entrepreneurial Marketing 490. It's a great class. You should be a part of it. I'd love to have you. I'm a marketing guy. I had to throw a call to action in there today. And one of the things about entrepreneurial marketing, and it's help, and entrepreneurial marketing will work no matter what situation you're in, because basically it's figuring out the best kind of marketing you can do no matter what your resources are, or your phrase, constrained resources. I love that, because who doesn't have constrained resources? And I've worked for huge companies that said, oh, hey, you know, they'll spend $500,000, $1 million a month on billboard advertisements, but then give me the eye when I ask for $100 for Google AdWords. Like, we're gonna spend $100 on what? And this still happens, because we're still dealing with this kind of divide between the executives who are still running the show, who grew up with newspapers and magazines and billboards and traditional advertising. And I'm coming from the experience that digital advertising are where the eyeballs are, and it's still very inexpensive, and with a lot of creativity and a little bit of work, you can get your word out there today like nothing before without having to spend the money that you used to have to do in order to get noticed. So entrepreneurial marketing is exciting, super exciting. And I look at almost every marketing project I take on in this way. How can I make it as efficient and inexpensive as possible, right? So, examples. Oh, did I go past one? No. No, I did. I just didn't include it in the slide. It was early this morning. One of the things that I do as an exercise when we first start out is, oh my gosh, well, what do I come up with? What do I talk about? What should I do? I start out with an intro paper. And in every single intro paper I get, each student tells me at least something about themselves that is absolutely fascinating. Stuff that you, in your own experience, probably take for granted, but that from an outside perspective, I don't do that every day. You're writing about working with a wine blogger in France, you know, working with animals in a zoo, talking about, you know, experiences that you probably go, yeah, I've been there, done that, right? But to me, I'm like, I want to know more about this. So whatever you get excited about, look into using that as a springboard for whatever you might do. Now, you might take a million different directions. You might have to pivot 3 million different times, right? But starting somewhere and getting passionate about something is usually the first step. And so there's something unique about you, specifically, that you can find, and you go, you know what? I know a lot about this. If you find yourself Googling, like, every morning I gotta wake up and check out what movie returns are. I don't know why. I'm just obsessed with how much money movies make. And if I thought that there would be something useful in blogging about, wow, you know, breaking down analytics for how movies are making money, I might just do that. But I know I'd be fascinated with it and I could write about it forever, right? So that might be my first thing I start writing about. And there's plenty of movie blogs that started that exact way. Box Office Mojo, IMDb, you know, just geeks talking about what they love. And speaking about weird people talking about what they love, I'm not talking about you yet. And Tamilee was there, so this is great. There used to be, and there still is, maybe there still is, I don't get a chance to get to it. I'm just way too busy. Kind of a social media meetup in Spokane. And it was at different coffee houses because social media people apparently love coffee. And we just would drink really strong coffee and just talk about Twitter and Instagram all morning. And that was heaven for me. So in walks this guy, and he's like, am I exaggerating? 6'5", and he's got this beard. And I'll remember it because like one time my girlfriend was with me. She goes, that dude looks like a Viking. Like, have you seen the show Vikings? You know, like Ragnar or whatever. How do you say his name? I'm like, okay, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I murdered a Viking name, but you know what I mean. He's cute, and he's got this beard, and but he's like, hello, my name's Eric. And he hands me a card, and on the card is a little beard, and it says, I must ask you a question. Will you join our club, right? Back in 2009, that was witty, right? So the great thing about it was so quiet, so unassuming. He'd come in, sit down, have coffee, and just be like, and I found out later he's like a financial analyst from Minnesota, worked with one of the big banks or hedge fund account. Anyway, he'd just sit down and he loved to talk about beards. Beards. Oh, am I lying? Am I exaggerating? Everything beards, like beards, all day long. I don't have time to show you all the cool like videos and stuff, but let's just say this. So he just blogged every day about beards. He made this Tumblr, and he put beard pictures on it of some of his friends in the beard club. They'd have beard get-togethers. They'd talk beards. And then one day, the New York Times called him up and said, hey, we want to do an article on your blog about beards because it's kind of hip, it's kind of cool, and it's really different. He's like, huh. So he goes to a friend of his who owned another business in town, a franchise in town. He said, New York Times is doing an article on it, so you want to try and maybe set up a website and maybe sell some stuff? I don't know. And within he said what? He spent $35 on his website, set it up with an open source e-commerce shopping deal, and when the article came out, he had a couple of things to sell that he had not bought outright. He'd made an agreement with a distribution agreement that he didn't have to put any money up front. He would just pay them as he sold. How he did that, amazing. Lindsay made that, excellent negotiations. Like no money up front, $35. And he got the website going. And flash forward a couple months later, $150,000 a month in beard oil. I am not kidding. Yeah, it's awesome. Now, the people who are in my class have seen the video. He went on to Shark Tank. They got, so here's Mark Cuban asking him about it. He did not get a successful bid, but it was awesome. And if you ever get a chance, I strongly recommend you look up Beard Brand. We don't have much time, so just take my word for it. Yeah.
I've been marketing for him. Every time I meet a guy with a beard, I'm like, have you heard of Beard Brand? I'm like, no. You need to go on this right now.
And the great thing about his website is it's there to sell you something. I mean, it's very obvious. But he's also always his blog is amazing. The pictures they take, their social media presence. It is all super cool. And his email marketing is just spot on. He did an email one, when during Black Friday, when you get deluged with all those emails going, buy now, you got to get your Black Friday deals. It's 40% off or it's never going on sale again, right? And you're just, oh my goodness sakes. To a degree it works, Who doesn't want their 20% off the Starbucks latte and the Best Buy, But the thing was, he wrote a letter saying, I know you guys, and I'm never going to have a sale. And in fact, I'm thinking about raising prices for Black Friday, so you might as well buy now. And his sales went through the roof. Best sales month he ever had. So there's someone who has his finger. Now, this guy also strongly believes in some other things this is a little preview. Social, marketing, website, and analytics, right? But we'll get to that. There's another example, and maybe this is a good time to introduce Tamilee, because Tamilee, maybe just jump in and tell your story while we have a chance. I'm going to bring up your website real quick.
Sync to the screen from the laptop.
Oh, bummer.
Hi, I'm Tamilee. I run a travel and food website that I had zero plans of running. About 7 years ago, I was a corporate executive in risk management, working for a very large company based out of Spokane. I thought I was going to retire with the company. Life was good. I was making great money. I was on the trajectory I thought I was going on to retire. Then the week of our wedding, they said, oh, hey, your job's moving out of state, and you're going to need to move in a couple weeks or leave your job. I got married 2 days later. I'm like, I'm not getting the Macy's gift card. I thought you were calling me in to give me a gift. Well, my gift was losing my job. My husband's a park ranger. It's his dream job. Corporate risk management, not a dream job. No matter what they sell you on, it's not a dream job. My parents flipped out. They're like, you have school loans to pay for. You like to eat out. How are you going to survive on a park ranger salary? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know how to cook. It was executive management. We ate out 5 nights a week. Seriously, like you're always at a business meeting. And then all of a sudden, I had a lot of time on my hands and a mother that would not stop calling. Do you have a job? Did you get a job today? How many jobs did you apply for today? And I'm like, Mom, stop. So I started typing. I was used to being in front of a computer. So I started this online diary specifically to shut my mom up. Nobody else, I didn't care. Like the day 10 people read it, I'm like, oh my God, these people know my life. What is happening? Freaked out. Fast forward 7 years later, 150 countries worth of people know my life. And none of it was planned. I wish I could say I had a business plan and I thought to use my MBA and I had it all written out. No. I just typed and took pictures of my cat. Cats do amazing things on the internet if you haven't heard. And it's a funny thing. And so it just started growing. And now we're an LLC, small business corporation with the state of Washington. We have employees. I travel about 150 to 200 days a year around the world. And it's pretty crazy. Not planned. Zero plans. But I think kind of piggybacking on what Paul said, don't expect to fit in a box as an entrepreneur. Don't expect that it's going to be this straight, great, clear line, and from A to Z, everything is going to go great, because I hate to break it to you, it's not. You're going to have mornings that you wake up, and you're going to go, oh, okay, I need to make money. I got bills to pay. But that motivation gets you to that next step, and it gets you to fixing that next problem. But whatever you decide to do, please do something you love, because it's not a 40-hour work week. It's a 24/7, it's your life work week, at least, running my own business, because my life is the business. People around the world know what we're doing often, but it works. So you don't have to go in the straight line that my mother thought I should have been on.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Tamilee's story. She's leaving a lot of kind of fun stuff out. We'll get to that. So some examples. Let's see.
Can it get bigger?
Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. All right. Know your technology before you do presentations. Tip number 37. There we are. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly touch upon, this is something that I read, that we use in the class, I strongly recommend, simply because it's not the only digital marketing book out there. As you know, there's a million of them, and I try and read a lot of them. But this was the first one that kind of put into words what I'd always thought marketing should be, is marketing should be helpful, first and foremost. We've kind of crossed a line where Well, and the thing is like I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs make this happen and make it very successfully happen with Beard Brand, Tamilee Tips, and the first example that Jay Baer uses in this book is about a guy going through the recession in 2008 who is selling luxury pools and hasn't sold a pool in a really long time, and his business is failing miserably. And so he has a little extra time because he's not making as many sales calls. So he takes that extra time, and as entrepreneurs know, you love to be busy. And he would stay up until 3 or 4 in the morning just typing up blog posts about what customers could possibly ask him about pools. And a weird thing started to happen. Traffic started going to his website. People started like looking through there. He's like, what's going on? And people would call him up, have him come over to their house, and they'd buy a pool without him having to do the sales, right? You know how Mark Cuban says sales solves everything? Well, what if you're doing marketing that makes the sales process that much easier, right? And all of a sudden, he realized that all these people were going onto his website, he became the go-to website for information on pools. And while they're reading about information on pools, who are they seeing? Whose phone number and whose name are they seeing while they're getting all that information over and over and over again? This guy knows a lot about pools. A lot more than those other websites, I'll tell you what. Those are all just sales-oriented. They're telling me it's going to be awesome. I'm going to be the most popular guy on the block if I buy a pool. And this guy's telling me, like, okay, here's what it costs. Here's what we use. Here's some materials you might want to look out for. Here's some things you might want to look out for if you live in this area. And they're like, that's the guy I want to buy from because he's sharing information up front and we're taking out that need to do all the selling. And he found that his sales pitches went from 1 hour to 5 minutes. And he started selling pools again, right? He was the go-to guy. Because if there were people still with some money during that bad time, they were still buying pools, but they chose him rather than his competition. So, and one of I love the concept also. We're not going to go through the entire book, I promise you. But when he talks about the 3 frames of mind, when you're talking about the top of mind type of advertising that worked, when people just beat you over the head with commercials over and over and over again, and you know, Coca-Cola and Budweiser and yes, drink, consume, blah, blah, blah. And we've turned that off for the most part, right? Or it's kind of just noise. Then he's talking about frame of mind awareness, which we're going to talk about in the class as well, which is frame of mind. Man, I need some shoes. I'm going on the internet. I'm going to go buy it. And your search, we're fighting for those search terms to be the one at the top of the page when you go, I want shoes. But even that is becoming super competitive now. I'm trying to do AdWords for registered nurse on a small budget. Whew, it's getting expensive for certain search terms. Shoes, you think that one's easy? No, there's a million shoe companies out there. So once again, you have to spend money. And you have to be so what he talks about for entrepreneurs is friend of mind awareness, where you become the information source, where you rely on word of mouth, where you have an awesome social presence, where you have an awesome website that makes sense and has the right colors that puts people in the right mood, right? So enough of that. Speaking of website, this is one thing. There is no reason. Set up a website. There is so many free resources for that now. Just play around with it. Learn how to do it. And in the process, you will learn a lot about how colors, even font choices, affect mood. And especially buying and what people think of your company. We talk about that a little bit. We have people set up websites. Setting up a website was absolutely essential. Did you start on WordPress.com and then? Yeah.
Spending money on anything? Are you kidding?
No.
I don't have money to spend money on.
No. Yeah. There's Wix. There's Weebly. There's all sorts of free choices where you can at least learn how to get in there and play around. And it has come a long way from the days when I had to set up websites having to know HTML. You don't need to know how to code anymore, all right? It helps.
And learn as much as you can on the back end of running a website, because it's going to save you so much money when you do bring your business to the forefront. Because a designer, anything like that is so expensive. Anything you can do yourself, you're going to save yourself so much money, and you're going to know when somebody's trying to take your money. When they're going to give you this great service that's going to do wonderful things for your website, and you're like, that takes me 2 seconds. Why would I pay you $500 a month for that? I get those offers more often than I would like, and I literally, to do what they're offering me, have to click one button and watch it spin for 20 seconds, and it's done and updated. And they want $500. So learn as much as you can. Make every mistake you can before it's live. Crash your site, do whatever. Learn how to bring it back up. It'll save you so much money in the end.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, website. We might have questions about that, but we got to move along. Social. Okay. Most of you, when I talk to you in classes, have a good handle on social. What I'm always encouraging people to do is update that LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn, what's that? LinkedIn, girl boss again. I'm going to go back because Tamilee recommended it and I read it this weekend. I just loved it. And it was one of the things that really stood out to me is she just kills it on social. And that's really the way she got started, with knowing how to take pictures, her Instagram, her Twitter, Facebook, her eBay, even talking about the thumbnail. But interesting thing she pointed out was, she said, I hired my entire C-level executive staff from LinkedIn. I hired my creative team from Facebook and an intern from Instagram.
This morning. That was 2 hours of my day.
So get that on LinkedIn, get that nice professional picture of yourself up, update it, share your skills. Social, don't put anything on there that you wouldn't want your mother to see. You know the drill.
And own your social. If you think of a business name and you're thinking, yes, I want it, get the social now. Even if you don't make it live, even if they're private, get every single social channel you can, because if all of a sudden your business takes off, people are going to take all of those social channels and make you buy them back. So if you have a name, if you have an idea, it's super fast and easy. Own those social channels. Trust me, people are paying every day to get their channels back right now.
And I literally will look at somebody's Instagram account, decide how into what they're doing. I love Tamilee. You should. If I didn't know how these screens were getting all screwed up, we'll show you during the question and answer session. Tamilee Tips Instagram kills. It's awesome.
And there's money in social. So if you have a good social channel, my husband has pretty good social channel. He's an Instagram addict. He got a contract today. He's not a blogger. You know, he writes for my site a little bit. He's a presence on it. But he's really an Instagram addict. In fact, he's probably at Starbucks doing that right now. And he got a paid contract today to post a picture and 2 lines. And it was a lovely contract. So do social.
Yeah. And I was going to show you the Sophia's social accounts, but we can show that later because I'm screwing things up here. And we've only got 10 minutes left. Okay. So the last and final, so you've got your website, you've got your social, you've got everything all figured out, right? This is the one where it is not sexy. It's not a lot of fun. I find it fun now. I went into marketing at first to avoid all that math stuff. Analytics, that's for math. But when I first started realizing that I could look at analytics and understand what traffic was doing how they were responding to what I was putting out there, and then make recommendations with those numbers behind me, my argument was pretty darn solid when I pitched for something, right? So I can have the most beautiful website in the world, the most incredible looking social, but the bottom line is, unless I go, and here's the numbers behind it, it's not going to mean a thing to potential sponsors, advertisers, your boss, your company. Because if you're doing all that and the traffic isn't showing up, then we need to talk about that. Peter Drucker said, what gets measured gets improved. If we know what is happening behind the scenes, we'll probably be able to take a look at that and go, I wonder why my bounce rate is at 90%. I should probably maybe make my landing page a little bit more customer friendly, or whatever adjustment you need to make. But please, please, please take the time to learn about Google Analytics when you get all the front end of your marketing plan together, your website, your social, and then tie analytics into it. I know you have something to say on analytics.
I do. Analytics makes me money every day because I can talk to a rep or I can talk to a company and say, my audience is 25 to 45 years old. They make on average 6 figures. They're college educated with 2 kids, and they have expendable resources to spend. That's why you should hire me to talk about your product. My readers are going to buy it. And I can use Google Analytics with screenshots to drive it straight down and say, my brand fits your brand. Why wouldn't you give me that 5 or 6 figure contract? Why wouldn't you want me to write about it? I'll prove to you what my readership is here in an email. Makes you money every day.
And this has worked with brands like Best Buy, Disney, Procter & Gamble.
Tomorrow, Disney. I fly to Orlando tomorrow night, overnight, to interview the cast of Zootopia. Blogging's a weird thing. I get to do weird things.
Yeah, so it really, the analytics piece, I cannot stress that enough. And it's definitely not, again, the part of the class where everybody goes, oh, yes, yes, we get to look at analytics and numbers. Maybe that, I don't know. At the end of it, I think that a lot of people realize the power of it. It really helps a lot to have on your resume because even people in my peer group are hugely unknowledgeable about analytics and it's a free tool. It is an absolutely free tool. So take the time to learn about it. It's great. You just go on. Now you can get certified in AdWords and analytics for free. It used to be a $50 certification charge. Go on to Google Partners or Google, Digital Analytics Fundamentals, and it'll just come up, and there's a class that you go through, and you can even do it video or text. If you're a video person, you can watch videos. If you're a text person, you can read through it, and then you take a test, and you're certified. Put that on your resume. Tell people you're familiar with Google. It's a powerful tool to have in your arsenal.
And if you're comfortable with a certain social channel, like if you really kill it on Snapchat, I do not. I started my first Snapchat today. I don't get it. Or Periscope or whatever that is. Add that to your LinkedIn. One of the bloggers I know just got probably 50% of her income for the 2016 paid because she is now a Periscope analyst. And she is going to go meet with Fortune 500 companies to talk about how to sign on and use Periscope. She won't admit the price range, but I'm going to bet it's going to be 50 to 75% of her income for this year. She added that to her LinkedIn. She started getting jobs. Periscope analyst. That wasn't even a thing 6 months ago. It's a thing today.
All right. So I think we've hammered that one home. We already did that one. Oh, I think we're at the end. How about that? All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Our revenue stream is very diversified because I don't feel like you should put all of your money in one bucket because that bucket can go away. So our revenue stream is divided by sidebar ads, which pay just based on people visiting and maybe clicking through them, like a Google or an ad. We have a company who runs those. Our other affiliate streams. So we've got the sidebar ads here. And then, like you can see, like the high-end women dresses. If somebody were to click on that, I'll earn income. But just because you're on this website, I'm making money right now because I have this view on here. So like Elephant Tour or Elephant Cave in Bali. That was a sponsored contract. Groupon sent us to Bali for 10 or 12 days to write about Groupon getaways. So there's that sponsored content within it. And then we also have a revenue stream for affiliates. It's very small right now. I'm working on it because I hear that people are making a chunk of money and I'm a little jealous and now I want that revenue stream. So we try to diversify as much as possible. Some of ours is sponsored social. So I may get paid to do an Instagram picture or just to send a tweet. You know, a single tweet could be upwards $250 to $500 for a single tweet, depending on the contract. So my biggest thing is diversification, because if Twitter goes away and that was my only revenue stream, what am I going to do now? So really having multi-channels for revenue.
First was really intimidated by the whole HIPAA, PIH, which I don't know if that would necessarily apply to you unless you're looking for patient stories, or can you give me a better idea of what you're doing? Are you talking about medical device sales? Okay. Then in that case, I would imagine that the hardest thing to do would be making those initial connections and knowing where you're going to be. I know somebody who works in Seattle in medical device sales, and it's very lucrative for him. But he spent a long time making a lot of physician relationships, hospital admin relationships. And as for the marketing that I'm doing, I work for a hub that administers for 7 different service lines. So my focus isn't so much on a product as it is the services provided by those service lines. So I might not be the best person to talk about that particular question, but I do know, for instance, if we're buying new equipment, it's again about that relationship that you're building, that initial knocking on doors. I think that besides having that professional online and a good product, being willing to do the sales part. That's one of the last places where that face-to-face sales really comes together.
So how did you, when you had one person, how did you get from one person to the hundreds of thousands you have now on your website?
Being real. I wasn't selling anything. You know, I still don't really specifically sell anything. I just tell stories and talk about my life. But I think being honest and open and having people want to know what you're doing or want to read your website. You know, we've all gone to websites where you're like, oh, close it, I can't. They're just, you know, you're ugly, right? So 1, you have to have a site that people want to look at. And 2, stuff that people want to read. You know, if a business has a blog, their purchase rate dramatically increases because people connect with that business. Like the CEO of Mars Chocolate is on Twitter now, and she writes about different things that Mars Chocolate brand is doing because people want that connection. They want to trust who they're buying from. So just really being open and honest and knowing there's going to be ups and downs. Ask. Honestly, like, you might send 100 letters and get 1 response, or 100 emails and get 1 response, but that 1 response may be exactly what you need. We get asked every day to talk about products. My decisions on whether or not we talk about it, do I think it's interesting? Would I use it? especially if it's a small business, you know, like if it's Best Buy or Coca-Cola, there better be some dollar signs behind it because I know they have it. If it's a small business that's just getting started up and is going through the same road that I went on, it really just depends on if I have that affinity to it. You know, is it something I feel like I can share? So, but ask. You'd be amazed. Ask questions. You know, if you're starting a business, find somebody on LinkedIn, find somebody on social who's doing something similar, send them a tweet. You know, people love to share what they've been through and how they got to the spot where they're at now, because it's not a straight road, it's not an easy road, and if I can help anyone not go through some of the twists and turns that we went through, I'll help every day. So ask, big time. Yeah. I think you get in front of them. You find out where they are. Do they have an event? Do they have a conference? Do they have a get-together that you can get your name and your foot in the door? You make a presence. And even if you don't get that invite that first year, but you keep asking, your name keeps coming up. And that repetition of your name coming up, at some point they're going to be like, this guy really wants in. Maybe we should talk with him. You know, but you got to get where they're at. And sometimes you have to spend money to make money. So even when it's scary and you feel like you have no money, sometimes even a couple dollars or putting a little bit of money in will have huge, huge response. So just getting in front of them. We spend tons of money to get to events so that I can interact with people in the same sphere. I think it depends on what your professional career is. I don't talk about politics. I've sworn twice on my website. I swear like a sailor at home, but I've sworn twice on my website, and I pressed enter and went, oh, here it comes. And people are like, that's great, you're real. And I'm like, I was waiting for the backlash, because there's always backlash about something, so I just figured I was opening the floodgates. But I think it depends on what your profession's gonna be. You know, if you're in something that's uber conservative and tight, you might wanna look long-term and maybe make it private or something where only certain people can see it. But you definitely have to make that decision on what your professional that you're going into is versus what your comfort level is with that. I think it's a 50-50 on what you're comfortable with, knowing that there could be repercussions. I hate to say, that's a conversation you're going to have on many different levels, not just within a competition, but within business. I have Fortune 500 companies ask me every day to work for free. That, like Paul was said, will spend $1 million on a billboard or a commercial that we all DVR through. But when it comes to my readership, they're like, oh, you work from home. You can do that for free. Come on, you're in your yoga pants. You don't need to get paid. You have no costs. Social's growing. Clearly it's growing. But we're at the early infancy stages still of business and marketing and what's accepted and playing that balance game. You know.
Would you say analytics would be
I was
the way
just,
to go?
thank you. I was just about to say that. I was just, if you can't, Tumblr even allows you to put Google Analytics on it. But as for Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of those have excellent native analytics that you can dig into. You can show traffic. You can show what people are doing. You can show that they're clicking through, or if they're going to the website, or if they're, you know, again, having that analytics backup on your social is going to be, and if you have it attached to your website, if you're saying, let me show you, and I've had to do this before because I had to have that exact conversation so many times. I'm so glad you asked it. Like, what is social doing for us? Well, it's driving about, 10,000 visits to the buying portion of the website per month. Is that social doing anything for you? I don't know. You know, you decide. Here's the numbers. And tracking that on the website as to a goal tracking, like making sure, watching what the analytics, you can go, oh, they ended up here where I sent them, and then they went to this page, they went to the buy page, and you actually track them all the way through the sale. And I say set up your analytics and then just show them the numbers, because I've won many arguments that way. And because nobody can tell me how many people went and bought their product seeing it on a billboard. They just can't. They will tell you that people selling billboard space will tell you, oh, it's this many impressions because it's on this road and like there's this much traffic. And they're buying from you all the time because they see that billboard. There's no proof of that. So, I mean, that's been the game traditional media has been running for a long time. Now you have a way to measure actually what people are doing. So yes, analytics is the key there.
I think it's both. Like the Hallmark ad that's running runs based off of cookies on a computer. I have a company that runs those. I don't touch them anymore. But I'm definitely seeing now that a lot of companies want the content marketing. I wrote about cat litter today. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's cat litter. But I'm talking about my cat with cat litter and whatever, Fresh Step with Febreze, it's gonna save the world. So that content marketing is I'm seeing more of than what I am the sidebar advertising. Sidebar advertising rates, sadly, are plummeting. So that content marketing, that social marketing is huge.
Here's a little bit of a marketing ethics question. Do you have to indicate that you are paid to talk about that?
Yep.
Okay.
So within my blog post, there's a disclosure statement that says, this post was sponsored by XYZ, all opinions expressed are my own. Whether or not that's an actual physical check paid, or like tomorrow I hop on a flight to go to Walt Disney World with Orlando, or in Orlando with Disney, that will still have to be disclosed so that people are aware that there's an agreement with that company. Same thing on social, hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. It doesn't have to be a hashtag now, it can be whatever, but every single one.
Do you have some that are not sponsored, or
Yeah.
all of your sponsored?
Oh no, like we do daily diaries and write, because if everything was sponsored, people would freak out on me and tell me I was selling out, and they have no trouble doing that. So we still, sometimes if I find a product I like, I write about it, or we do a daily diary sometimes just talking about life and what it's like to be a blogger and the craziness that comes from it. When my husband has ACL surgery next week, I'll write about that. It's that building that relationship with readers where it's really weird that they know your life. It's so weird. Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. My readers expect me to be honest. I will go to a company and say, your product's horrible. Do you really want me to do this? We went to Vegas on a sponsored trip and went to a comedy show. Should be easy to write about, right? We were not the audience. We walked out after like 5-10 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna write about this? They're paying me to write about this comedy show, and it was bad. So I ended up writing that we were not the audience, but there were people in the audience that were laughing and loving it. So I would suggest you check this comedian on YouTube before you spend $100 a ticket. Because while we were not the audience, maybe you are. And kind of balance it that way. But sometimes they're just so bad, there's nothing else you can do. So yeah, you have to be honest, and companies expect that. Your readers expect that. They want you to be honest. If everything was puppies and kittens and glitter and sunshine every day, they'd be like, God, this girl's a little crazy. Nobody has good, perfect days every day. So you have to be honest. Yeah, multiple. I use Hootsuite. Well, my assistant schedules out on Hootsuite. I use CoScheduler to auto-schedule from blog posts. I use Tailwind to auto-schedule for Pinterest. I use Facebook Scheduler because Facebook likes itself and doesn't like anything else, no matter what they try to sell you. Yeah, probably 5 of them. 6 of them maybe, all different ones, depending on the social channel. And then I use If This Then That, because there's so many social channels right now that I can't keep track of. And so If This Then That lets you auto feed to social channels. It's amazing. If you are not using If This Then That, it is life-changing. You can literally turn your lights on and off in your house and send your husband a text message at certain times if you want to, all programmed. But you can automate your social channels. So if I do a blog post, it auto feeds to like Tumblr and all these other ones I've logged into twice. But it drives 10 to 25,000 page views a month, and I've logged in twice. So that's if this, then that.
And I want to just do learn how to use Hootsuite. It's an absolutely amazing program, and you can put up to 3 social channels on it for free before. If you want to just play around with it, learn how to schedule on it. It does everything from, I don't use it for Facebook because Facebook has its own very, very reliable scheduler, but for Twitter and for Instagram, works beautifully. And again, for free.
And
So.
Paul brought up this is on our menu bar, there's a tab called blogging, and I actually just spent like 20 some hours updating this page. It has all of the different resources and different things that we use every day. I wanted there to be a place that I could send people that was easy to get to. So it has all of our scheduling tools, if you do decide to become a blogger, who we do sponsored posts with, email marketing, business cards, hosting, anything and everything I could think of to kind of puke into one spot. So if I forgot something, tell me, because I've looked at this page literally like 20 hours at this point, and I don't know what else to add.
I've put up a ton of links that are just all free tools that you can use. On how to use Google Analytics, different companies in the town, but look at this list of free startup marketing tools. Like for every time I went with a company that didn't have Photoshop, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to talk them into spending $2,500 for Photoshop. I found a Pixlr or a GIMP on my own, you know. So there's all these great free tools. And I had a student, Annalise, who's here tonight, who sent me one where it's a 300, but if you click on that, it is literally a list of 300 free tools you can use for analytics, graphics creation, website creation, you name it creation, whatever you need creation. So check out Tamilee Tips blogging. She has a great list of resources here.
And literally, if you think of something I forgot, please shoot me an email or social, because I've looked at this page so many times that I don't even know. I put a whole bunch of classes up there too. There's some really cool blogging classes right now and SEO classes. I take every class. Even 8 years in, I take every class in hopes if I can learn one little thing, then it pays itself off.
So let's give them a hand and thank them for all the.
Thank you.